Hey y'all, welcome to the Healing Space Live and Online Chats with Roxanne and Rhonda, the podcast where guests will share information and research on self-love, living a wellness-filled life, how to heal from traumatic events, and more. This podcast is sponsored by Healing Hearts and Minds Publishing, LLC, a new company that publishes books that promote self-love, healthy relationships, avoidance of unhealthy relationships, and much, much more. Check out their first publication, Unhealthy Relationships, Let's Stop the Madness, a guide for those in unhealthy relationships and for those who want to help them. Written by first-time author and co-host of the Healing Space Live and Online, Roxanne Elizabeth Epperson. Visit Amazon.com to purchase the paperback or ebook. Enjoy the show. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of the Healing Space Live and Online Chats with Roxanne and Rhonda. In recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we are going to be talking to three women, two of whom have experienced domestic violence, and one who has witnessed her team members go through it, and she's helped them navigate through the system and into the healing process. So I'm very looking forward to hearing what she has to say. And I'm not going to do the bio thing. I'm going to let them, that's going to be because their bios are part of their story. So there's no sense of reading the bios except for Mary. Mary is the one who's going to give some words of wisdom to the ladies. So I will introduce, we have Miss Margot Levette, and she's going to tell you who she is, but I'll just share with you. She's the one that taught Rhonda and I how to create a podcast. I hope we did her some justice. So, we're doing her some justice. Okay, look. So and forgive me, y'all. So I'm trying to do two things. I'm trying to admit people and introduce and all of that. And so the next person we have is Dr. Terrace Moss. And I'm not going to say anything else. I'm just going to let her tell her story and tell who she is. And then we have Mary Fernandez, who is the young lady who has helped her team members through this process of getting out of abusive relationships or helping them go through the healing process. So, and then we have some guests. I'd like to welcome and thank you all for joining us. Rhonda, you want to share anything else with the audience?
I certainly do. I want to say hello, everyone. Thank you for being here with us. Whether you are catching us now live, we are so glad to have you here. And if you're hearing this later from one of our archive sessions, we're glad you decided to listen to our chats with Roxanne and Rhonda. We have excellent guests this evening. I'm excited for us to hear their story.
Yeah, so we have a couple questions. Well, the questions are really directed to Margot and Dr. Terrace. So the other ones, as Mary shares what she's going to share, I'm sure we'll have some questions to ask her based on that. So with no further ado, I think our first question is going to be about red flags. Cool. So because we know there's a multitude of red flags in abusive relationships that most of us, including myself, did not recognize. And there's many of them. So we want to ask our two guests, what were some red flags that you recognized or missed during your unhealthy relationship? And we'll start with Dr. Terrace since she's unmuted.
Okay. Thanks so much, Roxanne. Mm-hmm. So, oh boy, red flags. I guess I would say two red flags. One was the separation from friends and family. My ex-husband, who was abusive, presented himself as the only person that I could trust, and he had my best interests, and he positioned himself to that that everyone else was trying to hurt me or use me, and he was kind of like my savior or something. So that was a red flag when someone wants to be your everything and try to separate you from your friends and family. A second red flag I'd like to bring up is his narcissistic behavior. Like, he was very self-centered, sort of arrogant. He just lacked empathy for anybody or anybody else, any other people. He had this need to be admired, and even when I received some sort of recommendation or whatever, he downplayed it. Right? He had the need to kind of put me in check. Very manipulative and patronizing, and he would do things that make me believe that I was losing it, like, purposely, right? So there were red flags, but I have to say that to go with your gut, to go with your feeling, because everyone was telling me how much of a great catch this man was, and on the outside it looked like really good to be true. He was very handsome, very it had a lot of charisma, and people looked up to him, and they thought I had the prize, and I kind of got lost in the hype. So that was another red flag.
Wow, that's funny. I'll just share my quick little isolation story. Torma, you don't know this. This is my cousin. She lives in Massachusetts. So I was dating this guy. My best friend, when I lived in Boston, her brother was older than us, so older than me. So he was out of reach. But when I became like 18 or 19, I was old enough, right? So we started this long distance relationship. I'm in Pittsburgh. He's in Boston. I had put in a resignation letter to my job. I was working at Carnegie Mellon. I put in the resignation letter because he wanted me to move to Boston, come up here, So I'm like, sure, I'll come on back to Boston. This fool twisted out his lips. Yeah, when you come up here, we're going to be moving to, I forgot what area, because we're not going to be bothered with our families. I'm like, and all my family's in Boston, because he's telling me I can't hang out with you, and I didn't even know anything about domestic violence at the time. So yeah, isolation, that's definitely a red flag. So, okay. Margot?
Wow. I'm listening to you ladies, and it's like, I didn't have the isolation thing, but I sure had he always had an edge about himself. And I kind of thought it was just him being a bad boy type of a guy, but he always had this edge. And then I would catch him in lies, and it was like he'd back away from them. But no, I know what you said. You said that. And it was always something twisted around. And when he would get caught in a lie, then he would get this tone, just angry because he was caught in a lie. And it seems so long ago. I was 19 years old. What a way to be introduced to dating and falling in love with somebody. But those two things, oh boy, I just hung around way too long for those two things to be in my life.
Yeah. If any of your guests, if you want to put a questions in the chat, please do so, and we will get to them at a certain point. So, Mary, I know you're going to be talking about your team members. So, do you recall them sharing any red flags with you?
I always kept things private and confidential because we protect each other's identities and things like that. And the consultant has full control over what she shares and what she does not. The first was a young, beautiful lady, and she was functioning in her days. And then she pulled me into a private conversation about 15, 20 years ago, where she had been beat and raped in the office of her military boss. Mm-hmm. And she was quietly trying to decide what she was going to do. Was she going to fight it or not? And as she started to fight it, she found there was no support. Mm-hmm. So she left town and gave up her career which I was very sad for. And the second one, she was a sister of one of my consultants, and she was beat, screaming, and hollering in her apartment. And the neighbors did not call the police, and no one said anything. And she was battered so badly that she was in the hospital and switched away out of town with family. And the third, I have about 4 or 5 of these stories. I'll just give them to you quickly. Mm-hmm. The third was a Mary Kay story where the lady was on the phone. Someone said, your husband's looking for you, run. And that's the second, that's first of the run story. So her director in her pink Cadillac ran one way to the house, threw clothes in the car, threw the children in the car, took her to the train station. The sisterhood of Connect the Dots got her that train ticket, got her out of town, in a women's shelter out of town. Mm-hmm. Then personally, my cousin, I remember his name, his wife worked in the city. And same thing. He came looking for her on the job, jumped across the counter in the city, angry and jealous. And she shot him in the house because he came looking for her even after that. But she defended herself and shot and killed him. Oh, so those are the most traumatic experiences that my people have had. And when I share in a little bit, I want to share some resources for women.
Perfect. Rhonda, you want to add anything to this?
Thank you. I'll start by saying thank you to everyone for sharing, because it's not always easy to be able to talk about the trauma and traumatic events that occurred in an intimate partner violence relationship. And as I just said that language, let me just explain. You may hear Roxanne and I interchangeably use the language intimate partner violence and domestic violence. I use intimate partner violence to represent the couple, the consenting adults who was in the relationship. Yes, it happens in teenage years as well. And tonight, I think, or this evening, we're focusing more primarily on the adult relationship. And so I just want to thank you all, first of all, for being able to talk about that. You know, it's interesting when we say red flags, because in the beginning of a relationship, we don't see them as red flags. We really don't. You know, Margaret, I really like that you said that you would catch them in a lie. You know, I tell people, I work a lot with young people, and I do this myself, that in the beginning of a relationship, when we're talking, I have a pen and paper and I'm writing down everything that they're saying, right? Because, you know, a lot of times in the beginning of a relationship, they're selling themselves. They're giving us the brochure and they're telling us all kinds of things. I even use examples like this, how much they bench press at the gym, you know? And then, you know, 2 months later, they talk about, I think I'm going to join the gym again. I ain't had a gym membership in a couple of years. I think you said something different, you know? So it may start out, because a lot of times it's like little braggadocious things, but them little braggadocious little lies, when you pay attention to them over time, they grow. And it does become a red flag. It is something really to pay attention to, you know? And because we're taught, and I always use this example, we're taught from a very young age to be forgiven. If I'm in daycare, and let's say Margot and I are in daycare and Roxanne is our teacher, and I snatch a doll baby, a crayon or a Lego, but I snatch something that Margot is playing with. I snatch it away from her. And Margot gets upset and tells our teacher, Miss Roxanne. Miss Roxanne comes over, and what's some of the first things she says to me? Give it back, Rhonda. And now tell Margot what? Tell her you what, Rhonda? I'll tell her, Margot, and in my 3-year-old voice, I say, Margot, I'm sorry. I tell her, you know, I'm sorry. And then Miss Roxanne turns to Margot and says, Margot, do you forgive Rhonda? Okay, good. Now you all can play nice. Now y'all translate that to our adult lives. He or she, our partner, does something. We don't think it was right. We might not have a Miss Roxanne to tell, but we think it through ourselves. They say, I'm sorry. They say, I didn't mean it. They say, will you forgive me? We say, yes. Okay, I will. Because it's the beginning of a relationship. You know, Dr. Terrace, I'm not talking about once we're, and I know I used your first name, but I know I'm not talking about deeper into that relationship. We're talking about just what you said, when that charismatic, good looking, smell good, cologne wearing, shower taking brother,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Not, like
Yeah.
after a while, yeah, but in the beginning, a lot of times we miss those red flags. So thank you all. Thank you so much.
Let me throw out a red flag that I missed, and I just want you all's opinion on this. This fool, and forgive me because I'm gonna keep calling him a fool, or idiot, or knucklehead, whatever comes out my mouth. I don't know.
All right.
He had the well. He said this to me. This was a glaring red flag that I missed. He hated his mother.
Mm.
What do you think about that? Is that not a red flag?
Wow.
And he said now he's from Harrisburg, and he had relocated here. Every woman in Pittsburgh was a stupid bee.
Ooh, wow.
Every woman. I said, my reply was, you don't even, how can you say something like that? You don't even know every woman. That was before I knew the dynamics of domestic violence, because I probably would have had a different answer or approach to it at that time. But for real, you hate your mother? You know, so to me, that's a red flag. Because if he hates his mother, that's why he hates all of us. His mother's a woman. He hates all women.
Yeah.
And
I'm leery of those men that call women bitches also. I
me too.
don't like it. It's a red flag
Yes.
for anybody. And it has been for a long time, because I never heard my dad use that word, and it just was always seemed disrespectful. And I thought, if you use that word freely, you have a problem. Now that red flag did not get past me.
Yeah, that one, those two, hating your mother and calling every woman a stupid bee. I was like, wow, for real. Yeah. So, Ron, do you want to take the next question? No, I want you to take the last question. I'll take this one.
All right.
So, based on our theme, our subtitle of our theme, you bent me, but you didn't break me. And I want to ask the two, Margot and Dr. Terrace, do you connect with that statement? And if so, can you elaborate? And finally, how does that impact you, if it did? We'll go with Margot first this time.
I tell you what, that fool jumped on me one day, and he just kept hitting me and hitting me and hitting me. And his brother had to break the door down, get inside, get him off of me, and he told me to run down the stairs, and that's exactly what I did. So 19 years old. Mm-hmm. So you tamp that down, you know, that's how I went forward with that. But then when I was in my 60s, and because I wasn't going to let that bend me, I was ashamed and all of that other stuff. But I didn't know how it bent me until I was in my 60s. And I took a phone call, and been talking to people all over the globe, 26 years at one corporation. That one day, that one call, it was that voice. It was that scary, eerie, creepy, everything wrong voice that I heard that day. And the guy was just battling at me with his words, and it literally bent me over in my chair until I couldn't even keep hearing what he said. And I don't know if that makes sense, but I couldn't even listen to him anymore. And I went to HR on him, and they didn't do anything. So I went to HR again. They didn't do anything. And that happened in September. And by December, I had been working with a therapist. I was crying every day, going to work, didn't want to go to work, tired of being fearful that he was going to come into the office because he was one of the contractors. And that call was not generic. That call was aimed at me. It was for me. Mm-hmm. So I quit. After 26 years, I quit. And, you know, I mean, I wasn't planning to leave for another 2 years, but I just quit. They said it's either you or the job. So it would appear that he bent me, but a year and a half after that, I was able to get back to my hobby, which was podcasting, and come back better and stronger, and was able to put that behind me, that I didn't want to deal with, that I hadn't dealt with. I was able to roll with that and move forward. And yeah, it still feels icky, talking about it, but it had to happen. I guess the therapist said it had to happen one way or another. One day or another, you're gonna hear him again. And the guy's dead. I found out later he's dead. So that was cherry icing on the ice cream. That hey, he can't bother you. Mm-hmm. The creep at the contractor can't bother you. No, he's not going to ride down your street. I mean, I was so paranoid. I just knew his car was going to come by my house. Just completely gone. I'm talking about off the tracks. But with the work of the therapist and with God, I am not that person. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about it. I'll share my story with anybody. And, I'm not how I was. And I didn't even know, I couldn't understand why I stayed so angry after that happened. Because even after it happened, I didn't want to face what was going on. Mm-hmm. And I was angry at the company. I was angry at the man. And I was just angry, Mm-hmm. And it all worked out. It just all worked out. Do I date? I don't date a lot because I never want to go through that again. I really don't. I made up my mind I'm going to be by myself before I run into something. I'm not going to do that because I'm at the best of my life and it costs to get here. So no, you're not going to punk me again. It ain't happening, partner.
She sounds like me. Ditto. Wow. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. And how about you, Dr. T?
Wow, Margot, I'm just really taken by your experience. I interpret that question a little differently because I know going through the abuse I went through, it definitely bent me, and how that manifested in me was I became very I had a wall up. I didn't let anyone close to me. Mm-hmm. I may have like one girlfriend that kind of penetrated that wall, but I don't let anyone get close to me. I know that I have so many talents, but I was like suppressing them. I wouldn't. I had a feeling of like not being worthy or self-worth, so forth. So how it bit me is it stopped me from pursuing my dreams for a while. I mean, I was young like yourself. I was in mid-20s when this happened, and it stopped me from pursuing my dreams, trusting people, trusting myself that that I'm making good decisions. I just had a setback. But now I'm on the other side, and I look at that experience and how I flourished because of it. I'm much more optimistic. I know that whatever comes in my life, I can overcome it. I overcame that trauma, so there's really nothing else that you could throw at me that I can't do. I now know my worth, and I have a more positive mindset and not to settle for anything less, like Margot says, whether that's in relationships, employment, business pursuits, you name it. I know my value. I know my worth now. So yeah, definitely bent me, but did not break me.
And I'd just like to put a little bit of her business out there. She is now married to her best friend.
Oh, yeah.
He got her a good man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is a life on the other side.
Yes,
but he had to go through something because like I said, I had those walls, I had those suspicions, and I came with some baggage. But right. He was patient. and we're good. 25 years now.
That's
So
wonderful, wonderful,
mhm,
wonderful.
yeah.
Now, before we move on, I'd like for Rhonda, if you would mind sharing with the audience about our new sponsor.
Yes, indeed, because we're so excited to have our sponsor. Our sponsor is from Lutheran Settlement House in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They have multiple services, and our sponsor is their bilingual domestic violence program. Their bilingual domestic program, it offers counseling service for children and adults. They give you many resources. They do community education and training. They have a hotline, and they don't have a particular shelter. However, they refer you. If someone needs shelter services, they have a referral list that they can talk to you about for referrals. It is, again, Lutheran Settlement House out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And our particular sponsor is the bilingual domestic violence program. I don't want to miss a couple of services that they offer. Their MAP, M-A-P, Masculinity Action Project. They have a very healthy group of men who will come around. The men themselves have conversations. These are not men coming in for domestic violence. They're coming in support of the program. It's a very good program because we know men can help end domestic violence also. They have medical advocacies, and their STAR program is students talking about relationships. Again, domestic violence bilingual program, a part of Lutheran Settlement House, Philadelphia, PA. Thank you to our sponsor.
Thank you, thank you. I'm assuming could they reach them by LutheranSettlementHouse.org?
They certainly can, or they can call their hotline number, and if you're ready for that number, it is 215-426-8610, and it's extension 1227. Again, the Philadelphia area code 215-426-8610, extension 1227.
Great, thank you, Lutheran Settlement House.
Yes, indeed.
They're our first sponsor. Well, they're our second sponsor, but they're our first paid sponsor. Because my publishing company is a sponsor, but So before we move on, we do have a question in the chat, and it's from Miss Daphne. And she says that several of you have stated you were in these relationships as young as 19. Well, I didn't even say that, but yep, that's when mine started too, with the teen dating violence. How can we help young teens today to be aware of those red flags and learn what a healthy relationship is supposed to be? And let me just share this too, for those in the Pittsburgh area. Daphne is an awesome playwright. And she writes plays around domestic violence and teen dating violence. So yeah, I think, are you a social worker? I believe she is. So yes. So can any of you answer that question? I can start with the answer, and there's more than one way to answer this question. But to get teens to listen to us, we have to listen to them first. A lot of times as adults, we want to start talking and giving them answers, and we want to tell them things like, "Child, you're too young to be going through all that." Well, they're going through all that, so before we decide that we want to just give them information, now I'm not talking about helping and giving resources once the conversation moves to that part, but let's listen first. Let's listen about what was the attention, what drew them to that person, because one thing in intimate partner violence, teen dating violence, it's not always violent. It's not always at that same phase. There's the hug me, love me, make love to me. There is the let's go out for ice cream, let's have a good date. Those are the things that most people and teenagers, I don't want to isolate it just to teens, but teens for sure, because they're just coming of age and just coming up to the point where they are dating and they are going out to have fun and do different things. So they're really concentrating a lot on that and not on the necessarily on the abuse, helping them understand the pattern
of the behavior and how it makes them feel is another area that we want to get into with them. But again, once we put that out there, we're putting it out there for them to respond to us about how they feel about it. So be patient, be kind, listen, and don't think that they're necessarily going to do, even if you're their mom or their auntie, their godmother, don't necessarily, and we may have some men listening in, as this is being recorded. So later some men may listen in. And so your daughter, your dad, a lot of times dads want to just jump right in there. Who is he? Where does he live? Show him to me. And that's not necessarily the healthy answer for your daughter or your niece. That you want to help them really get safe. The last thing I'll say is I keep being gender specific, but when it comes to intimate partner violence and teen dating violence, this is not in gender specific. There are male victims, and we certainly don't want to forget people who identify in the LGBTQ community and as non-binary, because when it comes to relationship violence, it's everywhere. It's widespread. There's no discrimination. So it's in all relationships. So thank you. I'm sorry. I did say that was the last thing. One more thing. I'm glad the question came about because the age group 16 through 24 is the age group that reports intimate partner violence more than any other age group. So thank you. I am glad Daphne asked that question.
Yeah, and they don't even recognize sometimes that it is abuse. I know we had a group. We had formed a teen advisory board, and we were talking about this topic, and it was like, all he did was grab their arm and shoved her into the locker. They didn't think that was abuse. All it was just a shove. It's like, wow, So yeah, they do need to be educated, and I'm looking forward to Daphne's next play. So I want to ask Rhonda, can you ask the next question, because I know we're supposed to end at 6 and sometimes we go a little over an hour, but Terrace does have to leave, so I want to make sure she's able to answer this third question.
Certainly. So the whole title of today's podcast is Look at Me Now. And then the second part is certainly what Roxanne has addressed already. You bit me, but you didn't break me. So look at me now. When we say look at me now, Roxanne already introduced the fact that Terrace is in a healthy relationship. So congratulations, very happy for you. But if you can think about what are some tips that you would give, and Terrace, will let you go first, please. But what are some tips that you can give regarding a healthy relationship? I don't want the audience to miss something very important you already said. I came with baggage. And there was walls that had to be torn down, so you recognized in yourself what you were bringing at that time, what you were bringing to the relationship. So can you talk about, Terrace, what are a couple of tips or comments that you could make around look at me now, that something that has changed?
Yeah, so a couple things I'd like to say. So first of all, in any relationship, you have to keep your expectations realistic and realize, I know in my younger self, I was looking for this man to be my everything, and no one person can be your everything or everything you want them to be. So you have to keep that's a different person, and you just have to keep your expectations of that person realistic. What helped me and my current husband is great communication. We did have some rocky, like after the honeymoon was over, like year 3 or 4, where we sought some counseling. I know that's kind of taboo in our in our society, but we did seek some counseling just to learn how to communicate better. And what I got out of that was, when we disagree, we have to fight fair. We don't belittle each other. Yes. We don't try to tear each other down, and we learn how to disagree. So that was one of the biggest things I got out of counseling. I also want to say you have to keep your relationship balanced. In my younger self, I was into what he wanted. not really, but now I take care of myself. I spend time with my friends. I pursue my hobbies. I do my creative pursuits. That's just as important as keeping a healthy relationship, as being your authentic self and feeding into yourself. And then the last thing is always listen to that internal monitor. Learn to trust yourself. So yeah, so those are what I would give as advice.
And
Wow. Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much. And she got a little bit of time because I still want the part of that look at me now is what are you doing now? You know, you thought you bent me, but look at me now, I'm flourishing. Okay, just quickly share with them your she got a bio that's like, I'm like, huh, I don't even know what that is. This girl is brilliant. Tell us what you do or have done.
Well, so I've been a scientist, and I've been a college professor for teaching clinical research and STEM program. I'm a professional writer for about 25 years. I've authored several books. I've taught other people how to write their books. I've been a corporate writer and trainer for 25 years. I'm currently working. I have two consulting programs. One is accelerated learning, which teaches, in academia, you learn what to learn, but you don't know how to learn. So I teach people how to learn, accelerated learning. And so I'm really targeting like mid-career professionals that want to get to the next level in their career, but they, may not be up on technology, might not have the skills and how to get those skills rapidly so they can be more competitive and so forth. So that's my LEAP program. My other program, Writing for Impact, I work with women that have been through some changes like abuse or drug addiction or whatever, and they want to tell their story. And I teach them how to tell their story in a way that helps heal themselves as well as heal their audience, their readers. So those are some of the things I'm involved in. I have a scientific background, a doctorate in biomedical informatics, which is mixing technology with science. So I really enjoy STEM program. And just as a backstory, in high school, I was a mediocre student, like C level student. And when I found out the techniques I coach on, how I learned, I got 5 degrees in the same time most people would take to get one. I just kind of like, I'm a sponge. I know how my brain works. I know how it clicks. And so I teach people how to do the same. So, well, that's a little bit about me.
See what I look at her now, y'all.
Yeah.
Look at her now.
Thank you so much. I'm kind of confused. I don't know if I'm going to go to Mary first or Margot, but Margot, I'm going to go to you next and just say I should have talked about the same thing. And Mary, then I will follow up with asking you to talk about the same thing with the, and I don't know if you use clients, consumers, participants, just people, the people that you've worked with. But I'll come back and Mary, make that a little more clear for you. But Margot, if you could do the same thing, look at me now. And you, some healthy tips that you may share. And you said earlier, I'm not dating, I'm not interested. It takes healthy tips to get into self also. That's so important. So what were some of the healthy tips that you said to yourself that make it okay? Because a lot of people aren't okay with just being who they are. I don't have a partner, but I still do what I want to do. I go where I want to go. If I want to take myself out to dinner, I take myself, it is okay to be an individual and not coupled all the time. So can you think of but share some healthy tips that would be, look at me now, that's what I was. I was at a point where I had to quit a job because the voice that came through, I couldn't deal with that. It brought too much back. It was too much of a trigger for me. So can you talk about, look at me now, as a healthy individual, and if there's some tips that you want to share as well as look at me now, who I am, this podcaster, my teacher that I'm very proud of. So if you'd like to share some of how you got to that point as well.
I tell you, oh my goodness, it was just God, because I felt so, from the time I could remember, I always felt like you need to have somebody. My mom was a stay-at-home housewife, and you need to have somebody take care of you. You need to have somebody in your life. And, ooh, girl, you 35 and you ain't married. And I got into so many bad situations just randomly dating because they said I needed to be with somebody, and I want to, and I still do. Dr. Terrace, girl, you keeping hope alive. Let me tell you, you're keeping hope alive. But in the meantime, I learned that I'm enough. And I know that's an overworked, overused frame.
Yes.
But excuse me, I got to know that. And I'm okay with that. I love teaching podcasting. I really do. And I don't know. I've just settled in with the help of God that just wait, hold on, because what I didn't throw in is that I did go on in my 20s to another relationship. And the one time that I didn't want to have sex with the guy, well, then he rapes me. So, I guess I just said, girl, you done. Shut it down. And I just started asking the Lord, Lord, what? What? And I got okay with that. I really am okay with myself. I have girlfriends and we'll go to happy hour and, we'll chat it down. We're supposed to say, oh, we just going to get a quick drink and we'll be there for 3 or 4 hours, tea-hee and tea-high, But I'm good with who Margot is. And that is, my God, that is major. My sister and I went together and we bought a home. My sister passed and I still have the home. We're not in foreclosure or anything. Here in Southern California, that's major. And at the end of the day, I'm happy. I'm 67 years old, and I'm not the fool that I could have been because God helped me.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
Wow, thank you so much, Marika. That was absolutely just, first of all, it was your truth, but it was absolutely just heartwarming because that you started with God, you ended with God, and in between there you put happy. I mean, it was just like beautiful to hear that. So I really thank that. I thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Yeah. Mary, I was one of the ones that had technology problems getting on, and I know Mary did also. I'm not going to slide my screen. I don't see Mary on here. Somebody else tell me, is she here? Are you still here, Mary?
Yes, still here.
Awesome. Okay, I can only see Roxanne, Margot, and Dr. Tara, so I'm sorry I can't see you, Mary. But if you can share with the audience, how do you help and I don't, again, if you say girls, women, clients, whichever word, when you're working with someone who has been bent, when you're working with somebody who needs tips, somebody who needs help to become healthy and whole, can you share 2 or 3 things that you do or that you say? How do you help them?
Okay, if I can pack in several little things. Can you see me, ladies? Anyone else can see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Oh, okay, great. Well, first of all, I'm glad to be here. I wanted to share, how my life or my career and everything about me is all about domestic violence and legislature to prevent violence against women and some statistics. But I did promise people that I would tell them one little thing so that we will all understand that we connect in pain and sorrow, no matter what degree it was. But my personality was formed, or my avatar, the big brown bear, was formed when I was around 19 as well, and my children's father was killed by his cousin. It was a very devastating time because first I'm pregnant, then we have a whole family and several families that are layered over each other who are all grieving and who all love each other. But my personality was, thank God, because as I'm standing out on that waterfront looking, I'm trying to find out who I am, where I am, and what I'm going to do for me. How am I going to live? And then God gave me the vision that these little twins, you live and you take care of them. So the bear began to take care of the twins and build a better life for them. That was my mission. Found this Mary Kay career, and it was all about great women mentoring and ministering into my life. And this company, I started out with a lot of young teachers, 30-something years ago, young teachers. And 5 ministers, female ministers, have been developed out of this leadership. At Norfolk State University, 5 presidents of the Norfolk State Association of Educational Professionals came out of this unit. And I was at an event with them, and they were, all 5 of them were there and alive. And then my principals grew up to become teachers, and they did not live their lives, nor did they live their dreams. And now some of them are retired. So I'm all about women's empowerment and moving people forward and giving them what they need to personally develop and personally grow. It is 1 out of every 3 young women from our Mary Kay statistics, because we give millions and millions to these 2 things, cancer against women and violence shelters. But 1 out of every 3 young people, and that's what you guys were speaking about, will, with the underline, experience abuse in dating relationships. We have programs that are in place to educate and empower our ladies, because we are the mothers, we are the sisters, we are the women that grew up these 38, 40 years I've been in Mary Kay. Powerful women ministering in my life. It's like a brain surgeon was one of my top teachers. My top national recruiting and teaching me was Pastor Reverend Bishop RJ. I'll give her that name because she passed out of Atlanta. But we've grown up with women whose children have now become our leaders, our mentors, our coaches. And I minister into the community with events and things that I do. The Mary Kay opens the door, but my mission is the woman. How can I help her? How can I impact her life? Now, 1 out of 4 women will, with an underline under that, experience abuse in their lifetime. So impacting women's lives on whatever level you can, personal development, business development, my podcast, thank you, Margot, my podcast and all those wonderful things that allow me a platform, gives me a place to live. We have a program called Love is Respect. That's a program that's separate from Mary Kay, but Mary Kay partners with that to address needs of our children, our young adults, and this dating violence. And we have, when I do speaking engagements, I have 4 powerful stories, live stories from women sharing how they were in the dark but got out of that detrimental situation. There's an international grant. I want to talk about 3 or 4 grants, and then that's the main thing I wanted to share. Mary Kay's Foundation. It's called the Mary Kay Foundation and the Mary Kay Charitable Foundation. They have an international postdoctoral scholarship for doctors who are doing cancer research. There is a grant program. In 2020, they gave away $3 million to domestic violence shelters to help them help women. And I was sitting at one of the board meetings at the hospital many years ago, and someone there was sitting beside me who applied for that grant. And I said, small world. Cancer research grant, $1.2 million, and to select doctors who are studying cancers that affect women. So I love the fact that I'm in a world of women and sisters, so many that we see and know of each other's traumas in their lives. But I've seen and I have sisters who have overcome. Even those female preachers that had the courage to stand up and become what God called them to be with the oppression of people's opinion. So my circle, my joy is empowering personal development, business development for women, because we need a sisterhood around us that can take care of us and our children and the next generation.
All right.
Thank you.
All I want to say.
Wow.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hey, tell us the name of your podcast. Tell us the name of your podcast.
My podcast is Leadership, Legacies, and Legends Unleashed, because I don't want to see another woman live her life without opening her mouth and speaking out. There are powerful leaders out there and people who have ministered in our lives. And my mission is to pull them up and give them a spotlight, and in my programs to work with them and develop them so that they can be that voice of what God called them to do and walk in their authority. We have personal authority we don't connect to, but I nurture and take care of my women to make sure that they find a way with customized programs. And my husband of 41 years came into my life after all that crazy trauma and drama. And we have five children. I had 2 babies in Mary Kay, and I had the 2 little twins, and then we adopted a son. And now I adopt all the women that come from leadership, because I got a lot to do in this world.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Woo! I
Yeah.
told you we had some
Welcome.
phenomenal women to listen to this evening. Goodly mugger.
I love that. Googly muggly.
Wow. So it's almost 6 o'clock, and I think we're going to be wrapping up. But what else do we need? Did we get everybody's? Anybody need to? Any of you need to promote anything that's going on? Because I know I know Mary does. I know for sure she has something.
Well, I definitely I challenge the ladies to reach out to me through any one of those contacts. You see my name. I'm from Virginia. I have a great contest for you. And I have a book, 100 Black Women Speaking to the Lives of Women and Girls Around the World. You can get that on my website. It's a great gift for that woman who has a story to tell, sitting in her little bedroom with no one to talk to, but she can pull that book out and read one of those love letters.
Can you put the name of the book in the chat and where we can get it, please?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
How about you? Look,
Margo?
Margo has a book.
Yeah, I have a book also, but you ladies know what I'm out to talk about is that podcasting. I'm like Mary.
Yeah.
We all have a voice, and we use a podcast to get our voice out to nations. So I teach podcasting, and if I'm not bragging, but if I must say, I did good with you ladies. This has been a wonderful experience, and
Yes, thank you.
so hey, anybody want to learn how to do a podcast and even how to monetize it? That's where it's at these days. It's really a podcast business that everybody's building. So podcastacademyonline.com. It's podcastacademyonline.com.
I was just watching the Today Show. I think there was a gentleman on there. I can't remember his name, but he does a podcast. It's scary stories based on real life incidents. It was like really creepy, the kind of stuff he was talking about. And basically they were just talking about how this podcasting is blowing up and it's not going anywhere. So we might as well jump on the bandwagon, it's and learn how. And Rhonda and I, we're getting there. Like we got our first little sponsor, but we'll focus on some monetizing. We'll get there. So I think 2021 or 2022 is going to be our year for monetizing. So we're working.
But you know what? People do it any way that they want to. Some people, they just podcast and they attach it to their business. Everybody finds their own way. But can I tell you ladies about something that happened to me yesterday, an opportunity that came my way? I know it was nobody but God sent my way, and the power of podcasting and telling your story. Somebody sent an email to me, and it was worldwide. It was a search throughout the United States for this TV affiliate, ABC affiliate. They want to people come tell their stories, called Plus Life. Come tell your story. How are you impacting women? So I went ahead and filled it on out. Boom, sent it on. Next thing I know, I'm getting a response back. Hey, we'd like to interview you. ABC affiliate. So I'm all giddy and I'm happy and everything. Long story short, yesterday I actually filmed the video shoot, and I'm going to be in their season 2, telling my story and how I teach boomers podcasting. It was like, wow, Lord. When I don't know that I'm doing the right thing, you always come through. I mean, just didn't have to pay anything. It was just like, nobody but God. So in February, it's going to air. And I said, whenever, I'm just happy, But that's the power of doing what you're supposed to do and letting God do the rest of it. And this thing of podcasting, as you say, Roxanne, it's not going anywhere. It is a vehicle for collaborations and doing some real good in this world. So I just want to pass that on. I think it's thrilling. What an opportunity.
Make sure you let us know when it airs. And I don't think I'm underestimating, but there's like millions of podcasts out there. And you would think, what is mine going to do? But it's your circle. It's, everybody doesn't want to hear everything. Like, I'm not going to go listen to the scary guy stories, but I'm going to
Somebody will.
Yeah, somebody will. Yep. And I've listened to one episode of Mary's. I got to go back and listen to some more. And I've listened
Thank
to
you.
several of Margot's, and I've really enjoyed them. And so yeah. So what else? Who else? Dr. T. I just started.
Oh.
I don't know where I came up with that.
I
Dr.
like
T.
it. I just want to share briefly two things. So, my latest book, Online Learning Made Easy and Effective. I wrote this book because I have two nephews that were excited about going to college, and then COVID hit, and then all their socialization was taken from them. They had to do this online school. I saw some depression kicking in and so forth. So I wrote a book to show students how to transition, how to keep that socialization, how to go to school, navigate through online learning, because it's totally different. So I just want to let the audience know that if you have a student, and if we go back to when COVID again, if we get in that situation, that's a resource out there. But as of next week, I will have a learning style assessment posted on my website, www.mossconsultingllc.com. And it's a $300 value. It'll be absolutely free. Just give me your contact information. And what it's going to show you is, again, if you take this assessment, you're going to have an idea of how your brain is wired to learn. It'll take you about 30 minutes to do, and it'll open up the door to figuring out, how you can learn new skills quickly and easily. So I just finished it last night, and I'm going to have it loaded on my website next week. So I just want to offer that free tool. Sure.
I'll be taking that assessment.
Yeah.
Can you put it in the chat so we can get contact with her?
Sure. My website is www.mossconsultingllc.com. I put it in my name there. So
Can you put it in the chat?
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm going to copy and paste that and put it out there for the world to see.
And then that'll get you on the right path.
I was going to say, Roxanne will post everybody's information so we can put it out there. Is everybody okay with it also being on social media? I would think yes, because you're promoting yourselves. Okay, so just would let us know if you don't want it on social media, but I'm glad to hear that everybody does. Is okay with that. So, yeah. So, Dr. Since Roxanne nicknamed you Dr. T, I started with the Dr. T, so she got it on to Dr. T. So, Dr. T, if you had a 6 o'clock hard fast, hard end at 6:04. So, first off, we want to respect your time, but we want to thank you for adding to this podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you just for your openness and your honesty, and look forward to just keeping in touch with you. So, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you all, ladies. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
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 So, okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, before we close, let's hear where where is Dr. T? Where are you right now, Dr. T?
Oh, I'm in Ewing, New Jersey.
New Jersey?
New Jersey, yes.
Margo, you are in?
Southern California, LA County.
Mary, you are in?
Virginia.
Now, we told y'all, look out for Chats with Roxanne and Rhonda, because see, this is global. This is not just Pittsburgh. Shout out to all our Pittsburghers who listen to us regularly. We love you. We thank you. And tell your friends and cousins that Roxanne's cousins on here from Massachusetts. Tell your friends and family members, because it's not limited to Pittsburgh. We want to get this word out. As I said, domestic violence, intimate partner violence has no limits. It's in all relationships. It's in LGBTQ. It is in heterosexual relationships. It is in the rich and the poor, the black and the white. It is in every corner of the world, not just the U.S. So please listen to the stats that were given. 1 out of 3 teens, 1 out of 4 adults. Please listen to those stats. Pay attention to it and do what you need to do to take care of you. Domestic Violence Awareness Month. October is coming to a close this weekend, but you know what? You can still promote awareness around domestic violence. I have one last thing for my closing, and it is just to say, here's some comments that were made overall. I had a vision that God gave me, and I've used it for women mentorship and women empowerment. I had this bad boy thing going on, but I learned to find out about me. I trusted God and what He showed me, and now I am happy. My husband and I went through some things, but we learned to have communication. We went for counseling, and now you know what? I learned to have my own identity and to get back into some things that I really like for me. Thank you all for your podcast. Thank you for your books. Thank you for what you're bringing to the world. Love you all.
And I just wanted to just end with Margot. First, Margot, please put your stuff in the chat for me, please, because I'm going to copy and paste all of that. Online Academy information, because I really want people to jump on this training. And I just also wanted I heard two people at least talk about therapy. And I just wanted to emphasize how critical that is. And I think Dr. T said how, it's like we're in the African-American community, we kind of like, it's like taboo. You don't want to, but that's changing. I'm hearing more and more males and females. People are really realizing that's serious. It's okay. You ain't crazy. You just need somebody to talk it through and help you figure this stuff out. And I know the time I went to therapy, I did all the talking. That person, they just sit there and listen, whatever, So there's just somebody to listen to you. Then they will give you some, some valuable input on how to deal with what you're going through. But Rhonda, thank you. I thank you. I just really enjoyed this conversation, y'all. Very, very good. And so with that, we are going to, now, Rhonda and I have a little closing that never works, especially when we're online, because if we were in the same room, it would work, okay? But we're going to attempt to do it. We do it every month, and sometimes it works, and we just look real silly, but it's all good, So Rhonda, first of all, real quick. I really, really want you to know that we are starting a private group for women who have experienced domestic violence and sexual assault. It's going to be a private group, and it's called Healing Space Warriors, and that's WAR, WAARIORS, or the small letters. It's a play on the word warriors. It's not going to be on Facebook. A lot of people are leaving Facebook, and I guess you can probably imagine why. So it's going to be on a platform called Mighty Networks, but you have to be invited, and I'm vetting people because I can't have no creeps coming up in our group. And I already know that all three of our presenters are going to be, I haven't even talked to Margot about it, but some kind of way she's going to be involved. She don't know it yet. But the other two, definitely Mary and Dr. T, they'll be a part of this group. This just too much to tell you about right now that in planning. I mean, I'm talking about financial literacy courses. I'm talking about a support group. I'm talking about those who have been, you left your relationship and you started from scratch, so hey, Mary can help you start a little business on the side, or something like that. So we're going to be talking about all those type of things. We're going to be having fun and just be supportive of each other. So with that, I think we'll do our closing, and hopefully we'll see you on every Thursday at 5 p.m. And you can rewatch this. This one on the last Thursday of the month is live. The rest of them are just regular audio podcasts. But Rhonda, can we tell the people what we do?
Yeah, you ready?
Yep.
We got
your back.
back.
I think maybe one time we've said it in unison, but it's all good. Y'all get the point. Thank you guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you, everybody.
There are two things we would like you to do. Number one, enter our monthly drawing by sending your email address to info@warheals.org. Spelled out, that is INFO at WARHEALS.org. Put drawing in the subject line. We will notify the winner or winners via email by midnight on the last Thursday of each month. Our second request, engage with us on IG. Follow, like, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms at warheals_ on IG, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. WAARHEALS_ on IG, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. As always, we thank you for listening and see you next week.